The moral of this episode is pretty much trust nobody. Don't trust your opponent, don't trust the fight promoter, and do not even trust the athletic commission. You want to make sure that you are taking everything into your own hands and you're making sure you're going to be as safe as possible, treated as well as possible, and not taken advantage of. Today I'm going to list you 4 things that have happened to me in my fight career that I know have happened to so many other fighters that you need to be on the lookout for. This episode really applies to everybody. You could be a high-level fighter and this is less likely to happen to you because the high-level promotion have more eyes on them and they're less likely to pull shady business as frequently. The lower-level promotions could definitely happen to you. So 4 things that you really need to be on the lookout for and you need to understand, and each of these in some capacity has already happened to me, which is why I want to bring them up to you. Number 1. Medical coverage. You are going in to fight, and unless you have some stellar insurance, there's a chance that when you come out and if you have to head to the hospital, you're going to have this enormous medical bill. You should be relying on the fight promoter, the fight promotion, to have your health taken care of financially. If you need to go and get something small like stitches, if you need to spend the night in the hospital, maybe something unfortunately bigger just happens. You know, a little forearm breaks or something like that. These things can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And I've heard of fight promoters who go, no, we're not going to pay for that. Make sure it's in the contract before you sign that they are going to cover you for medical coverage. If they're not, be aware of the financial risks. My example was fighting in New York. I got cut. The athletic commission came to me and said, look, we have a guy already going to the hospital. You want to jump in, get a ride there, get the stitches? I said, sure. You guys think I need stitches and you can't do it here? They're like, no, we don't want to do it here. Go to the hospital. So I jump in. Head back home. About 2 months later, I get a $1,000 bill. I was riding along with somebody else and I got stitches. $1,000 bill. And the fight promoter goes, no, I'm not paying for that. And I just basically said, yeah, I'm not paying for it either. They kept sending me bills for collection. And I'm like, no, refer to that guy. It's his fight promotion. Eventually he ended up paying for it because they wanted me back for another fight. And I said, no, it was in the contract. You guys have to cover your fighters. But this has happened many times to many people. Make sure you are aware of what is listed out in terms of medical so you don't have to fork out lots of money after the fight. The next thing which you should be on the lookout for, which a lot of people lie about, is your opponent's record. Nowadays, with the internet, it's a little bit more difficult to be shady, but not impossible. And the number of times I've heard somebody say, yeah, I fought this guy. They told me he was 1-2. But then after I found that he was 7-0. A lot of times people will take additional fights from other styles. Like, oh, maybe he had 5 MMA fights or 5 karate fights, or he did some Muay Thai and they'll say, oh, kickboxing record. He's 0-1. People are ruthless when it comes to needing to match up fighters. So be on the lookout. The internet is a godsend now because you can look up your opponent's name, type in your opponent's name MMA, your opponent's name karate, your opponent's name kickboxing. See if they have any other hidden fights which they're not telling you about, and be on them that, you know, if you find out that there are more fights on this guy's record than you tell me, I'm not going to fight. And I'll walk away. And you need to hold the promoter accountable and your opponent accountable to make sure that they are being trustworthy and upfront. I have had many times where I've fought people and then found after they had far more fights than they said. The next thing which will happen, and has happened to me, is getting on the scale and weighing in without your opponent there. I've had a couple times where they said, oh, he already weighed in. I'm like, what do you mean he already weighed in? The weigh-ins were supposed to be at this time. I'm here at this time. I want to see him on the scale. I've had a number of times where I've seen guys in the ring across from me for the first time. Like the first time I see them is across from me in the ring, and I go, there's no way that guy made weight. But then I was there and I'm like, oh, I'm going to fight. And I beat them. But you have to be aware that, again, promoters will lie and try and get you in the ring with somebody bigger, either to pad a local fighter's record or just to get a fight card filled up. Be there on weigh-in time and say, no, just so you know, the promoter, I will not fight unless I see my opponent step on the scale at the same time as me at the right weight. People will also try and be like, oh, he's 5 pounds overweight. Don't worry about it. Yeah, worry about it. People need to be on weight. It's part of the fight. It's part of the contract. And people need to be held accountable for what they agreed to. Size makes a big difference. And cheating by 5 or 10 pounds or saying, oh, you should fight this guy who's heavier than you, that's not fair. It's dangerous. If skill levels are even and somebody has a 5-pound advantage, this makes a big difference. You might not think it does, but it really does. Imagine myself right now, and then we clone myself, but we add 5-10 pounds more muscle. He's gonna win. That's just the way it is. And that's what happens when skill levels are even, but somebody has that size advantage. And the last thing I want you guys to be on the lookout for, which has happened to me before, is promoters promising to reimburse you for travel costs or whatever other costs after the fight. They go, yeah, fly out here. And then after the fight, we'll pay you. Yeah, they don't always pay you. You need to be having that in the contract or say, yeah, I'll come out and I'll fight, but you have to pay me at weigh-ins. And then when the promoter's there and he's like, shoot, this guy's threatening to walk away from the fight. If I don't give him his money right now, then you might get it. But I've had times after the fight where I was like, yeah, I won the fight, go to the promoter. He's like, oh yeah, we'll pay you tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna wire transfer you money. Yeah. That's not gonna happen. Make people either pay for your travel or any other costs that are there, and make sure you don't wait until after the fight to get your money back, because you probably will not. So those are some signs that you need to be on the lookout for if you have an upcoming fight or are looking at having some sort of fighting career, whether it be amateur or professional. They're gonna keep you safe and make sure you're not being taken advantage of in terms of opponent size, financials, or opponent's records. This is important stuff to know, and stuff that a lot of other people are not talking about, but I like to sit down sometimes and do these oddball episodes that are going to eventually help somebody out there who might end up in a little bit of a sticky situation. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, join the channel, get subscribed. Train hard, guys. I'll see you back here soon for another video.